How to write meaningful proposals on Upwork that get responses from clients. That's what we are going to see in this video. So, late last year, I launched a digital product on Gumroad, and that product was essentially this document. This document highlights my approach to writing proposals on Upwork, and more often than not, I hear back from clients. And to briefly talk about who I am and what my credibility is in terms of talking about this topic. So I have more than $40,000 in earnings on Upwork, and I've completed more than, or in fact, 98 jobs and worked close to 500 hours on Upwork. So as part of this video, we are going to cover, or in fact, I thought I will quickly review the document that I had created to see if it still stands the test of time and if there is anything that I would change about this particular document. I will add a link to the digital product on Gumroad in the video description. And for people in India, Gumroad also has now made available purchasing power parity, which means that products that I have published are available at a 60% discount. You'll know more when you click the link to the product from the description below. So let's quickly browse through the outline. Um, at any point in time, you can look at the outline here. But in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through this document. It's not a very long one, and that way you get ready access to this document as well as part of this video. So let's begin. So first things first, I'm in no way connected to Upwork, but I'm saying this as a freelancer who has worked on Upwork since 2016 and has seen a fairly decent success on Upwork. Let's skip this one. Um, let's skip this one as well. Cool. So let's jump right into it. So the idea for this particular video is how to write proposals on Upwork that get responses from clients on Upwork. So firstly, strict don'ts on Upwork. Now this is a minor one, um, according to many, but I think that it's very important for everyone to spell the brand name of the platform correctly. And the reason for that is very simple. If the client in your proposal sees that you have spelled Upwork in any of these ways, you have not used the platform really well, or the fact that you lack attention to detail. Now, the world may be divided about how much to read into this particular aspect, but that's what I think. Upwork is spelled like this, and it should always be spelled like this. Let me bold on it. Okay, second one, never ever share your contact details, that is, email ID or phone number, as part of the proposal. Conduct all your conversations on Upwork. You can exchange email IDs or phone numbers once you have entered a contract with a client. But even then, transact only via Upwork. So the thumb rule for me is very simple. If a client finds me or if I find a client via Upwork, that relationship has to remain on Upwork. And Upwork has published guidelines around how long do you have to transact via Upwork for anybody who get introduced to each other, to one another via Upwork. I think the last time I checked, this time period was 2 years. But for the rest of this particular video, the bottom line is don't take business away from Upwork. And the second one is again kind of related. Don't ask a client to work off Upwork. If you're getting introduced to a client on Upwork, stay on Upwork. Okay, without even realizing, I already talked about this particular topic, and that's primarily because I wrote this document really long ago, and I'm just reviewing this document now as part of this particular video. And the last one is, or in fact, maybe not the last one, there are a few more. Don't book screening calls using Zoom or Google Meet or any other platform. Conduct all calls only using Zoom and Calendar, which are now available natively in Upwork's chat. So let me remove this because now you can schedule meetings and schedule Zoom calls within Upwork's Messenger. And if a client asks you to do any of this, inform the client that doing so is in violation of Upwork's terms of services and politely ask them to maintain all communication only on Upwork. And also, I think it has been said multiple times, don't copy paste proposals. So now we are going to see how do we customize our proposals even if we are working with some templates, and how to personalize a proposal by researching some of the information that the client has published as part of their job description or their previous job history. Now, the first aspect is that of research. Now, we start with finding the client's name. And the reason for this is I read somewhere or I heard somebody say that the sound of their name is the sweetest sound a person can hear. So I have always liked addressing people by their first name. I don't address people using their last name. I strongly relate with this. So if somebody writes to me, I feel better when they address it as hi Amit or hey Amit instead of hi, hello, hello there, or hey there, and whatever. And in Upwork's context, when a client sees that you know their name, it is a positive signal to them that you know how to do some basic research that helps you write a personalized proposal. And how do we do that? So, under each new project that a client posts on Upwork, you will find the client's recent job history. And some freelancers are kind enough to mention the client's name when they leave a feedback for the client. So, here is an example. This is the job history of a client who has posted a fresh job on Upwork. And here we can see that this person, Emmanuel, is the person handling this client account. And don't get confused between Emmanuel and Manny. Manny is short for Emmanuel, so that's completely fine. And just a quick side note, if none of these freelancer feedback contains the name of the client, there are always more jobs in the job history that you can review until you find the name of the client. Then in some cases we also want to know if it's a gentleman or a lady that we are talking to. So here somebody has used pronouns he, used the name Med. A couple of people have used the name Med, and that's completely fine. It's short for a full name. And if you can only find the short name, it's completely fine to address the client using their short name, which other freelancers have used when they have left a feedback for the client. Another point, understand how people in the West have names and short names. And unlike in India, a person gets a nickname when they have a proper name. So, in this example, there are many examples that I've shared. Nick is usually short for Nicholas, Manny is short for Emmanuel, Bob is short for Robert, Andy for Andrew, Phil for Philip, Matt for Matthew, Alex for Alexander, Mike for Michael, Jim for James, and so on and so forth. Sometimes clients mention their name in the job description itself, like they do at the end of emails. So that's a very easy way to find the name of a client. And as I said, we can find out the gender of the client as well from the feedback on the job history. And sometimes you will find more than one name in the job history. And in that case, find the name that appears more than the others and use that name when addressing the client in the proposal. If you can't decide between two or more people, use both names, Andy and Phil or Andy or Phil. There is no hard and fast rule about this, but you get the idea. And if you don't find any name, start your proposals with hi there. Okay, so instead of hi there, I'm going to just say hello. I have changed my stance about this. So here goes the first correction. And if you have found the name of the client, start your proposals with hi Alex or something like that. Now, the second piece of information. So by the way, right now we are here. This is the video outline or the outline of this particular document. So right now we have reached here. The second part of the research is finding information about the client's company. So sometimes past freelancers also mention the name of the company in the feedback. Do a Google search using name and company to find a little more about the client. Also use the city/country of the client to narrow down the search results. Check the company's website to understand what the company does. And use this information in your proposal to show the client that you are smarter than others. Now, the reason why I say this is on Upwork, it's really easy to stand out because most freelancers on Upwork, they are not giving a proposal the due respect in terms of making it feel really customized and personalized to the client's requirements. Most of them, they copy paste proposals, and that's where they fall behind. So use these data points to show clients that you can do some basic research, you have attention to detail, and then slide this information into the proposals smartly and not just for the sake of it. Now, also check the client's willingness to pay. Gauge the price the client is willing to pay for the project. It is listed in the project details page. So, this is where you look for this particular information. Now, except for the first job or the first few jobs on the platform, I would recommend avoiding entry level jobs. Now, you can also find this information on the job listings page, and it is visible here where it says that the client is willing to pay anywhere between 50 and $82 per hour for this particular job, and this is a pretty decent pay for the skill set the client is looking for. And to make your job search easier, there are filters available on an Upwork job listings page. Here you can easily use these filters to avoid seeing entry level jobs or to focus only on expert jobs and intermediate jobs if that's where you are at. Now, also check the client's payment history. That's where we are right now. Check the client's payment history. So, on any Upwork job, on the right, you will see some stats about the client, where the client is based, the country, the city, how many reviews the client has, over the number of over how many number of reviews, how many jobs the client has posted, what is the percentage hire rate, how much amount the client has already spent on the platform, across how many hires, what is the average hourly rate the client pays, and so on and so forth. So use this information to find out the likelihood of the client hiring somebody on the job and you being okay with the hourly rate that the client is used to pay. Now, these are some additional data points. So, payment method verified means that the client has committed to hiring somebody for this particular job. I would say that do not apply to projects where the client doesn't have a verified payment method unless the project description is sincere and you are sure you can deliver the project. Now, another caveat here is that when a brand new client appears on Upwork, they may not immediately add a payment method. In which case, if everything else checks out, you can still apply to that particular job. So when you are beginning on Upwork and there's another client who is beginning on Upwork, I think that's an ideal match. It's a match made in heaven because you both are helping one another get off the ground on a platform like Upwork. Now, the second point is the average hourly rate paid should be greater than the hourly rate you want. Ignore this rule when you are just getting started. Okay. Also, in the beginning, look for fixed price jobs. That's another tip that I would add here. Higher rate indicates how many jobs the client eventually hired somebody for. A higher rate indicates that the client usually hires somebody whenever they post a job. A low higher rate indicates that the client is just fishing, or in many cases the client is transacting off of work which is against Upwork's terms of services. So beware of such clients, and whenever appropriate, what I have done is I've reported clients or the projects. Now, some clients never hire on the platform, 0% hire rate. This is what I'm talking about. So, never apply to those jobs or projects. Check the average amount spent per job by the client. In this case, 7,000 divided by 22. It will give you an idea of what the average value of the project is. It will also tell you if it's worth applying to the job. Now, do the same for spend by client per month. In this case, the client has spent 7,000, and back when I wrote this guide, these were 30 months. So I wrote this somewhere in probably 2020, mid 2020, I guess. 2020, yeah. It indicates how active the client is on Upwork. A more active client means more work, so this number should be high too. Now check the location of the client. Clients from US, UK, Europe, Australia, Singapore, etc. tend to outsource more because of the difference in purchasing power parity. It also works in your favor because of exchange rate arbitrage. Now, the overall rating is an indication of how easy the client is to work with. Don't work with anybody less than 4.5 stars. If the overall score is low, read the feedback, read the past feedback from other freelancers to understand what it is like to work with a client, with that particular client. Now, the next point here is understanding how much competition you have for any particular project that is listed on Upwork. So the thumb rule is don't apply to projects that already have 20 plus proposals already. Ideally, only apply to jobs that have less than 10 proposals. And what this translates to is apply as soon as possible, as soon as the job is posted on Upwork. Now there are multiple ways to tackle that, but for the sake of this particular point, focus only on jobs where less than 10 people have applied because it is very easy to then stand out from the crowd. Secondly, don't apply to jobs that are more than a day old. The best time to apply to jobs is as soon as the job is posted. There are methods to get notified as soon as a job in your interest area is published. I have already talked about this. Some clients indicate the minimum qualifications for applying for a job. In most cases, don't apply to these jobs if you don't qualify. Apply only if you have a solution already available. And there are ways to communicate this to the client. So you may do a Loom recording talking about the solution and send that to the client. In that particular case, the client would not be worried if you are not in their preferred area or preferred region. All they care about is the solution that you are providing, and that's completely fine. If interviewing is more than zero, it means that the client is actively discussing proposals with freelancers. It's usually a good sign indicating that the client is on the job. But if there are, let's say, five proposals and the client is interviewing five people, it may mean that the client is still fishing, or he doesn't know, or he's just like throwing darts in the dark and seeing what sticks. And lastly, return on investment. So Upwork's currency for applying to jobs is connects. Upwork gives you 10 free credits or 10 free connects every month and charges you 0.15 dollars per connect for additional connects. Now it takes a minimum of two connects to apply to a job. In some cases, it takes one when the client is new to the platform, and a maximum of six connects. You can bump your proposals by spending more than the connects required to submit a proposal. Now this is something that I don't do. I don't artificially bump my proposals because I believe that I have made a decent effort in writing the proposals. So I've never bumped proposals to get at the front of the line, but your mileage may vary. Now, the number of connects required to submit a proposal depends on the client's budget in case of fixed price projects and the client's desired length of engagement for early projects. So it can be anywhere between 1, 2, 4, and 6. And then you, as a freelancer, you can choose to spend any number of connects just to be at the front of the line when the client is reviewing those proposals. And when you are submitting a proposal, this information is clearly visible as to how many connects the first person in line has spent to get at the front of the line. Now, writing the proposal, we come to writing the proposal, and you it starts with a list of cautionary tips. And this is something that I've already said. Don't copy paste proposals. Every proposal should be handcrafted. Address every question the client has asked in the project description. Clients ask specific screening questions separately. Answer those questions first when that is the case. And this is an example of of a project having some screening questions. So, what questions do you have about the project? What past project or job have you had that is most like this one, and why? And many times, clients mention a trick question or ask as part of the proposal project description. They will ask you to begin your proposal with a special word to indicate that you have read the proposal. So, this is one of my clients who used this particular line in the project description. He says, please start your response with go blue so I know you read the whole set of requirements. Pretty interesting, right? And when client uses tests like this as part of the project description, you know that the client is very serious about hiring somebody on Upwork. So these are usually good signs. And one specific question, in case this does not come up later in this video, is that most clients they use a very vanilla flavored list of questions, which typically looks like this. And this, when a client uses just cliched questions, it is usually a bad sign for me. If the client asks more thoughtful questions, it's a very good sign for me as a freelancer. I know that the client knows what he's doing on the platform and what he's looking for. So both these questions are very generic, and this is not a good sign when it comes to like this does not indicate that the project will be of much value to me personally. But again, your mileage may vary. Coming back to our list, addressing the client, use the name from the client research from the previous section. If the client is new to Upwork, welcome them to Upwork. And to know that, check the member since date. So I've given you two examples. Hi Alex, hope you're doing well. Hey there, welcome to Upwork. Now I would probably not use this, and I'll just get right right down to business. To be very honest, now paraphrase the requirements. In my line of work, where I'm providing consulting, I have found that it's very difficult to paraphrase the requirements because the client themselves have not discussed their or described their requirements in detail. But For your area of expertise, this may be valid. So, paraphrase the requirements, show the client proof that you have understood the requirements, and to do that, summarize what the client needs based on your understanding. Mention the importance of doing this project and how crucial it can be. Mention the advantages, benefits the client will realize if this project is successfully delivered. Second, prove yourself. Proof of work already done. So there are three ways to do this. So the first one is show them the proof of work already done. So in some cases, clients provide some data or files attached to the project descriptions. In my case, this is very true. I began on a working on Excel, PowerPoint, and Google Sheets and Tableau-based projects. And if a client provided some data, I would usually do some quick analysis on that data and use that analysis to write a proposal to the client and to show them that I'm a man of action, and I'm willing to put in the required effort. So if you can create a deliverable that solves the client's problem at least 50%, it goes a long way to show that you are skilled at this task. Record a video on Loom and send a link to the video as part of the proposal. In this video, share your screen, talk about what you have done, how you have done it, and what else can be done. You can talk about which additional data information you need and what that additional data or information will help you do. Okay. Now, you can also explain similar past work, mention the previous client's location, industry, tell this client exactly what you did with the previous client in the previous project, and mention the impact of your work. Now, you can use the STAR technique or the STAR framework to describe the impact of your work, and you can Google STAR framework to understand what it means. So, and like to quickly cover this, its STAR stands for situation, task, action, and result. So for every instance or every body of work that you have, describe the situation, what was the task at hand, what was the action that you took, and what was the result that the client saw as part of your efforts. And lastly, provide proof of similar work. So create a folder of all proof of work you can show to a client. Don't share any client's confidential information, obviously. Attach relevant documents to the proposal. Explain what each attachment is by referring to each attachment in the proposal. Use the portfolio section of your work profile to add projects and proof of work. Mention these projects in your portfolio and ask the client to check these out if relevant. Right? I mean, for anybody trying their hand at Upwork, you may have already built your profile, and there are other people who have talked about how to build a very good Upwork profile and how to build your portfolio on Upwork, how to add certificates, accreditations, education details, and details about your employment. All of this information can be added to your Upwork profile, and there are other freelancers who have talked about this particular aspect. Okay. Now, the most important the most important section, according to me, is asking questions as part of your proposal. And the reason for this is very simple. This is the only way to show the client that you have carefully read the proposal. And secondly, asking questions leaves the door open for the client to respond. So, if at the end of my email to somebody I say, what times are you available, for example, in the next week, they will have a question they can respond to immediately without getting lost into the other details of the email. And coming back to the point in question, some questions will be applicable to every proposal you send. Some questions will depend on the nature of project. Now, to give you an example, I provide pipe consulting. So I have a ready list of 7 questions that I ask every client to answer before I can like jump on a call to discuss their project with them. When I ask these questions at the end of my proposal, it immediately gives a client something to do to take the conversation forward instead of being in an ambiguous territory on both sides, not understanding how to take this conversation forward. So I have found that asking questions increases the probability of a client responding to your proposal. Now, also through these questions, you can demonstrate your expertise if you ask the right questions, right? So, for example, I would ask my Pipedrive clients if they are using any third party apps for their integrations or using an automation tool like Zapier or Integromat for integrations. Now, asking very detailed questions gives client some idea about how detail oriented or how methodical you are about delivering your work, and also the fact that it shows clients that you know what you're talking about. So for example, if you are an accountant or a bookkeeper, ask about the client's industry, the client's customers, where does the money come from and where does it go, the number of vendors and who they are, what the nature of the most frequent bookkeeping accounting entries are, how does the client prefer to communicate, what are the systems the client uses, what accounting software the clients uses, and things like that. Now, think of more such questions you can ask a client that would be crucial for you to understand the effort required for the project. Now, these questions, this list of questions is for accountants. If you are a graphic designer, if you are a brand consultant, your questions will be very different. If you are a software developer, your questions will be very different. If you are a content writer, your questions will be very different, right? Now, think of more such questions you can ask a client that would be crucial for you to understand the effort required in the project. Create a repository of such questions to use over time. Okay. Now, if required, tell the client why you are asking those questions. For example, I have a few questions that will help me understand this project better. Now, this sounds very generic, but you can get very specific about these things. Lastly, add a call to action uh, to your proposal. So, in this case, let me know if you'd like to hop on a call on Upwork to discuss these requirements in more detail. Or, in fact, now that I read this, I find this very generic, and I would probably replace it with let me know when we can speak to take the conversation further, for example. Or I can suggest hours that work for me as part of this particular line in my proposal. Special request, and this is applicable only for your first project. So if you have no work history on Upwork, it is okay to mention in the proposal that you're looking for your first job on Upwork to get started. Now, to complement this, mention how you have experience working with clients in the same setting before starting on Upwork. It will help clients know that even though you are new to the platform, you are not new to freelancing and client work or the expertise that you are providing. And it could be written something like this: I only recently joined Upwork and I'm looking to find my first project on Upwork soon to kickstart this exciting journey on the platform. Even though I'm new to Upwork, I'm not new to freelancing. I've been working in the same setting for 7 years now with clients in the US, UK, Australia, and India. If it helps, we can complete a smaller engagement on Upwork to evaluate how well we work together. Right. And now, lastly, signing off. So sign off the proposal by indirectly showing your excitement about the product. I am looking forward to working with you. Best, Amit Sarda XYZ, MBAB, if relevant. So your signature can show clients any relevant details to this particular job. Right. So for example, for my Glide projects, I'll say that I'm a Glide app certified expert or link to my Glide app development service page. For a Pipedrive projects, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a link to my Pipedrive landing page, Pipedrive consulting landing page, to give clients something to explore. Like if the client wants to find more about me, I want to give him the information, or I have to give him the resources to find more about me. And that's about it. This was, I think, very quick. And now, if you have any other questions about this particular document, feel free to ask me those questions in the comments of this video. If there are some other topics that you would like me to cover, do let me know. I also have another short essay about improving your hourly rates, and I think I can cover that as part of this particular video as well. And I wrote this as a Twitter thread, but I decided not to post it because of some other reasons. I did not want to ruffle some feathers, so here it is. And I'm going to simply read this out and explain if it is required somewhere. Okay. So, unsolicited, but here it is. Key to improving your hourly rate in freelancing. If your plate is full with a client you love working with, double your hourly rate for new projects with new clients. It sounds like a corollary to a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. Don't say no to new projects if you don't like the vibe. Quote a significantly higher price than what you would usually quote for a similar project. The client will most likely never respond, and which is fine. You are anyway not very intent on working on that particular project. But in this case, you have raised the client's budget for the other freelancer he will work with. And this is also related to how I feel about improving the overall freelancing industry. So I have always believed in quoting higher so that the benchmark is also higher. So let's say a client is willing to pay $50 an hour for a service, and let's say I quote $250 an hour, which is my current hourly rate. Now, even if the client does not want to work with me because of my high hourly rate, it will at least help some other freelancer be able to charge 100, $125, $150 because suddenly that freelancer is more affordable than I am, and the client who was willing to only spend $50 an hour for a freelancer is now paying more to get a higher quality of output from the freelancer. So overall, like by doing this, it is my hope that I'm elevating or I'm helping improve the freelance industry where I am increasing the client's willingness to pay, and freelancers they start making more money for the services that they provide. Otherwise, freelancing can, and it usually gets a race to the bottom, which does not benefit anybody but clients, and that's not fair according to me. I think both parties have to respect what they bring to the table, right? Okay, moving on. If a client makes a comment in poor taste about your hourly rate based on where you are located, it's a red flag. So I have had clients say that, Amit, you are based in India. Why do you have to charge so much? Or why are you charging more than somebody who is based in the US? And it's an immediate red flag for me. I don't engage with those clients anymore, right? So if the client can't see what you bring to the table, regardless of where you are located, it won't work out. If your testimonials can't convince them, nothing will. And on Upwork, your testimonials are visible on your previous job history. So make it a point that at the conclusion of every project, you ask clients for feedback, both quantitative and qualitative. And most clients, they will skip both these aspects because they don't want to type out three lines to compliment you or to appreciate you for your contributions. But having those three lines of encouragement or three lines of appreciation from a client, it goes a long way. And also you can set up a separate page on your website where you can collect testimonials from clients. You can use a tool like testimonial.to. to capture video and text based testimonials from clients. If you're in a full time job, would you work with the same company without a raise year after year? Is another question that I ask as part of this monologue. So, a stagnant hourly rate in freelancing is unsustainable. So, the typical argument, right? Inflation is increasing, your expenses are increasing, you start a family, you have kids, and all those things. You have more expenses every year. So, you can't sustain at the same rates that you started with, right? So 2 hours per day at $40 is greater than 10 hours per day at $10 because now the amount of money you make in the latter scenario is more, but you have sacrificed one third of your day. And this is where think that improving your rates, increasing your rates over time, it goes a long way. And this is actually a real example. I started billing at $10 an hour when I started back in 2016. The second project that I took was at $25 an hour. The third one was at 40. From 40, I went to 50, 50 to 60, 60 to 75, 75 to 100, 100 to 125, then 150, then 200, and now I'm at 250. And I have not raised my prices in more than a year now, by the way. And after reviewing this, you will realize that you have more free time in your day. So you should use this free time to add new skills, to learn new tools, to your skill set. The market has all kinds of clients. You will slowly but steadily find clients who pay for the value you bring to the table. And to be very honest, based on my experience, you just need 5 or 10 clients to lead a very comfortable life, right? So don't undervalue your skills only to find yourself in a race to the bottom. It serves nobody but clients who are looking to exploit skills, who are looking to exploit lack of opportunities available in countries like India, right? Now, once you have set your hourly rate, don't negotiate. You will sleep a lot peacefully at night. So, and lastly, I don't negotiate on price is a much simpler statement to make. You don't want to get into a never-ending discussion to try the best bargain. And this is my recommendation to all freelancers on Upwork or any other platform. A negotiation at the start of the partnership does not lead to good outcomes. So I would highly recommend not to engage in these tactics. Like the clients will try to engage you in these tactics, but my recommendation is to not engage in these tactics at all. So that's all. That's all I had to share with you as part of this particular video. And as I said, if you have any comments or any follow-up questions, do ask them in the comments below. If you would like me to cover any other aspect of freelancing, let me know as part of the comments, and you can reach out to me on Twitter as well. I'll add a link to this guide on Gumroad in the video description below. I'll also add a couple of other links that I find that could be relevant to this particular video. Thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a very good day and a very good weekend. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.